Welcome, I'm Landon Farrig, Assistant Division Director of Energy Policy for the Maryland Energy Administration. As a part of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, or IRA as it's commonly known, the United States Department of Energy is implementing two new programs designed to assist residents with the transition to electrified households and to increase home efficiency levels. As a part of the state-level implementation of these programs, the Maryland Energy Administration, or MEA, as Maryland State Energy Office, is required to host public information sessions and opportunities for comment. This is one of two such sessions. Next slide, please. This meeting is being recorded, transcribed, and will be held as a public record. We ask that everyone keep decorum in mind. We ask that you please refrain from using profanity, and threats will not be tolerated. We're here to have a productive meeting, hear from those who wish to be heard, but we do have the ability to remove unruly participants from the call. Next slide. In a moment, Lisa Lusinger will walk us through some background of the programs, MEA's goals for program implementation, as well as its proposed approach to the respective programs. You will also be hearing input from Nicola Tran with the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Additionally, we're joined by members of the leadership team that is working diligently to design and implement these programs. At the conclusion of today's presentation, we'll make time to receive public comments from those in attendance who choose to have their voices heard. I want to emphasize that this is not a question and answer session, but rather an opportunity to hear your feedback in the form of a public comment. If you do wish to offer a public comment at the conclusion of the presentation, please simply utilize the virtual hand raise function within the meeting application, and you will be given up to 2 minutes to make your comments. With that, I will turn the presentation over to Lisa.
Thank you, Landon. Good afternoon, everyone. The United States Congress passed legislation known as the Inflation Reduction Act, which you will hear me sometimes refer to as IRA. One of the purposes of the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, is to reduce home energy use. Maryland's participation in the Inflation Reduction Act program makes Maryland eligible for more than $136 million in funding through two programs designed to reduce home energy use. Next slide, please. As stated, the Maryland Energy Administration, also referred to as MEA, as the State Energy Office, will offer two Inflation Reduction Act rebate programs. One IRA program is called Home's Residential Energy Efficiency Rebate Program. The second Inflation Reduction Act program is known as the High Efficiency Electric Home Rebate Program. The amount of funding available per home is dependent on household income. Qualified contractors will deliver incentives for both of these programs. Next slide, please. The Maryland Energy Administration sent out a request for information in late 2023, asking for feedback about the Inflation Reduction Act programs. We were pleased to receive more than 50 comments from individuals, businesses, local governments, and nonprofits. MEA received comments urging that the federal funds be used to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and meet state and local climate goals, prioritize people in low and moderate income residences, combine benefits of the IRA program with other programs, extend outreach utilizing multiple languages and trusted community partners, and make the income verification process efficient. Next slide, please. The Maryland Energy Administration reviewed the Department of Energy's requirements for participation in the Inflation Reduction Act programs, considered the feedback received by the request for information, and surveyed the Maryland energy program landscape. And with that knowledge, developed the goals for Maryland's IRA rebate programs. MEA's goals are to reduce Marylanders' home energy costs and increase their health and safety, tackle our climate challenge by developing strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, Leverage our partnerships with Maryland's Department of Housing and Community Development, sometimes referred to as DHCD, so that we can take advantage of opportunities between programs. Our goal is also to prioritize funds for people in low to moderate income housing and in areas with unmet needs. Finally, we join in the excitement for the potential of this infusion of federal funds, yet recognize that the funds that Maryland is applying for are not limitless. So that Maryland can cause those federal funds to go the farthest, we need to make the most out of every dollar. And therefore, since heating and air conditioning makes up more than half of energy use compared to other household uses, Maryland will use the federal funds to prioritize heating system conversions to heat pumps in order to reduce carbon emissions and lower home energy use. Additional details will be provided later in this presentation. Next slide, please. With the first program, this chart shows the proposed breakdown of Maryland's $68 million award for the Section 50121 Energy Efficiency Rebate Program. As you can see, both the Maryland Energy Administration and the Department of Housing Community Development, DHCD, are proposed to be implementing energy efficiency rebates under this activity. Please note, the Department of Housing and Community Development will be implementing $27.7 million in rebate funding reserved for low-income single-family and housing, of which at least $5.5 million is only available for low-income multifamily housing. Next slide, please. The Maryland Energy Administration will have a number of partners in the implementation of these programs, including the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD. We are pleased to have Nicola Tran from DHCD, who will discuss with you a little later information about how DHCD envisions advancing their part of the Inflation Reduction Act programs. Next slide, please. As mentioned, one of Maryland's goals is to provide incentives to households in Maryland that previously did not have the benefit of state-level incentives for energy efficiency. Maryland's Section 50121 program, identified on this slide as pathway number 2, is targeted at these households. Homes may have been ineligible for other incentives due to where the home is located or the types of heating and cooling systems installed in the home. By focusing on households not served through other state-level initiatives, these rebates can assist unmet needs in Maryland in support of MEA's goals for the program. Next slide, please. For the Section 50121 Energy Efficiency Program, incentives will vary based on the overall amount of energy savings. This is a chart provided by the Department of Energy for single-family homes. It illustrates that to be eligible, a project must have modeled energy savings of at least 20%. So, if a project has less than 20% savings, it is not eligible for a rebate. The level of incentive is then higher for any project that has an energy savings of 35% or greater. Additionally, the rebate amount is dependent on the income level for a household based on the federal Housing and Urban Development's Area Median Income, abbreviated as AMI. Households with less than 80% Area Median Income, AMI, will have a different incentive than a home that is 80% AMI or greater. So that's Section 50121 of the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, let's look at Section 50122. Next slide, please. The second program, Section 50122 of the Inflation Reduction Act, focused on home electrification where Marylanders can move from a fuel-sourced appliance to an electric version of the same equipment, for example, converting to an electric heat pump. The program will only be available for households that are low income or moderate income, according to the federal programmatic requirements. And that's 150% or less than the area median income limits from housing and urban development. Please be aware that electric to electric system replacements are not eligible for a rebate. And also know the Inflation Reduction Act program guidelines require that all equipment used in these retrofits must be Energy Star qualified. Next slide, please. This chart demonstrates how the $68.2 million federal fund is proposed. Maryland plans to use the federal funds in the following ways, which are all subject to approval by the United States Department of Energy. Approximately 40% of all Section 50122 funds will be reserved exclusively for low-income and low-income multifamily residential electrification projects. For these funds, the Maryland Energy Administration is pleased to be partnering with the Department of Housing and Community Development. $27.6 million is being dedicated to single-family and multifamily residences, including $5.5 million that will be reserved exclusively for low-income multifamily housing. $18 million is being reserved for fuel oil and propane heating system conversions to electric heat pumps, which can then be coupled with additional electrification measures. Funds are also planned to be allocated to a new program known as WARMTH, which stands for Working for Accessible Renewable Maryland Thermal Heat, a pilot program that we will look at further in a few slides. The WARMTH Act will receive $9 million aimed at implementing a new networked geothermal pilot program. And finally, a portion of the funds will be utilized for program implementation. Next slide, please. Under this 50122 Inflation Reduction Act program, the Department of Energy set rebate for each possible electrification measure. As an example, the Department of Energy established the maximum rebate for a qualified Energy Star heat pump for space heating and cooling to be $8,000. Using this example, a household with an income of less than 80% of the area median income could be eligible to receive a rebate of up to 100% of qualified project costs, up to $8,000, while a household with an income that falls between 80 to 150% of the area median income could be eligible to receive up to 50% of qualified project costs. So, continuing with this example, the actual rebate would be calculated based on the cost of the heat pump installed by the qualified contractor. The income level of the program participant determines whether 50% or 100% of the project is included in the rebate calculation. Finally, know that the Inflation Reduction Act, Section 50122 program, requires the incentives to be provided at point of sale. So this incentive will be provided through participating contractor rather than to an individual. Next slide, please. Now I would like to introduce Nicola Tran, who will tell you more about the Department of Housing and Community Development, how they will participate with MEA in administering this program. Nicola?
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everybody. We're very happy to be part of the conversation today. DHCD is excited to collaborate with MEA on implementing the low-income part of the IRA rebate programs. As some of you may know, DHCD has been designated and required by law to provide energy improvements and holistic building retrofits to the low-income population in Maryland. We're currently doing so through our suite of energy efficiency programs for both single-family and multifamily property owners and renters that live on a limited income. On the single-family side, we're currently operating the DOE Weatherization Assistance Program, the Empower Low-Income Programs, and the MEEP Crisis Program, and have been serving approximately between 2,000 and 3,000 households per year over the past decades. On the multifamily side, we work directly with housing developers or owners through the Empower MIHA and the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Programs, to serve around 1,500 affordable housing units per year. On both the single family and the multifamily side, we have each created a one-stop shop to streamline various available funding sources into one process for the applicants. That means that through one application, the consumer or the multifamily property will be qualified for as many of the programs we have available as possible. After assessing the property's needs for upgrades, a comprehensive work scope is developed and all applicable funding is stacked to maximize the benefits to the participants. Through this process, we have integrated all steps from application through assessments, through funding, through work implementation, inspections, payments, documentation, and reporting across the available programs. On the multifamily side, properties can also integrate rehabilitation funds through the same process, and the single-family one-stop shop is currently working on integrating rehab funding as well. With that set up, we're looking forward to work with MEA on integrating the IRA rebates into the process to make the deployment and access as streamlined as possible for both participants and participating contractors. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Next slide, please. Let's go back to that new Warmth pilot program, which is the second deployment pathway proposed under the Section 50122 electrification program. This is a unique proposed use of the Section 50122 electrification funding that, to our knowledge, has not been proposed in other states. During the last legislative session, the Maryland General Assembly passed a law requiring that $9 million in Section 50122 funds be reserved for a Working for Accessible Renewable Maryland Thermal Heat Act pilot, Warmth. I'm calling it Warmth as an abbreviation. Under the Warmth pilot, certain gas companies in Maryland will be required to develop a pilot neighborhood-level geothermal energy network. Section 50122 incentives will be reserved for households participating in this pilot to switch current natural gas users over to electric appliances. As with all of the proposals outlined in this presentation, this is subject to approval by the Department of Energy. Next slide, please. And lastly, we will give an overview of the third and final deployment pathway under the Section 50122 electrification program. In Maryland, state-level incentive programs are not available for homes that have a fuel oil or propane heating system. About 8% of Maryland homes are heated with fuel oil and 3% propane heat. This program is being aimed at incentivizing the conversion of fuel oil and propane heating systems to electric heat pumps, which should result in savings from lower energy costs and a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And these homes will then be eligible for other 50122 electrification incentives. For example, a water heater conversion. Next slide, please. So, where is Maryland in this process? The Maryland Energy Administration issued a request for information at the end of 2023 to get feedback from the community. In January 2024, MEA submitted our applications for administrative funding to the Department of Energy for the Inflation Reduction Act programs. The Department of Energy approved Maryland's initial applications this past July and provided $1.44 million in early administrative funding for both of the programs. With these funds, MEA was able to hire staff for the planning, design, and implementation of the two programs. Next slide, please. And so everybody wants to know what's next. In keeping with the requirements of the Federal Inflation Reduction Act program, the Maryland Energy Administration, working with our partner state agency, the Department of Housing and Community Development, will next submit two different applications to the Department of Energy for the Section 501.21 Energy Efficiency Program and Section 501.22 Electrification Program. The timing of Maryland's application approval will be determined by the United States Department of Energy. As we wait for the Department of Energy to approve Maryland's applications, the Maryland Energy Administration will advance several detailed plans required in the state implementation blueprint related to community benefits, consumer protections, data access, and outreach. These additional plans need to be submitted to the Department of Energy for at least 60 days prior to launching the programs. As a result, we cannot provide a concrete start date for these programs at this time. There simply are additional processes and approvals that still need to be navigated. Thank you very much for your consideration of these Inflation Reduction Act programs. Back to you, Landon.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll now enter the public comment portion of the meeting. We're grateful that so many of you are taking time to learn about Maryland's proposed implementation of the Inflation Reduction Act programs, and in advance, we thank you for your thoughts. The team working on design and implementation and program is pleased to hear your comments as they will impact how we advance the programs. Please at this time, click the hand at the bottom of your screen if you wish to make a verbal comment. The moderator will call on you in the order that you raise your hand at that point. We do ask that you unmute your microphone so we may hear your comments in the order that you raised your hand. So we can be respectful of anyone's time, we ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes and to be constructive. As a reminder, we do expect respect and decorum. A timer will be placed on the screen and the moderator will intervene if you go beyond 2 minutes. Please note that we will not be responding to comments or answering any questions at this time. If you wish to provide further written comment, please email them to irarebates.mea@gov. This is a dedicated inbox created just for IRA rebates that was recently created. Again, the email address is irarebates.mea@maryland.gov. You can also send public comments to the federal.mea@maryland.gov inbox noted in the initial public meeting announcement. Again, we thank you for your time and consideration of these new programs. And with that, we will move to our first commenter, David Collada. Please state your name for the record and an organization if you wish to. Your 2 minutes begins now.
Thank you. It's great to be here. My name is David Collada. I'm the Vice President of Policy for SEALD. We are a climate tech company with a mission to eliminate home energy waste and electrify all homes. We work with contractors, ultimately to make it easy for them to take advantage of incentive programs and rebate programs and grow their business. Our core policy recommendation is that states, when it comes to the homes program, include both the measured and modeled savings pathways. We think that they can work really well together. And in particular, though, with the measured savings pathway, given the unique grid reliability benefits that come from being able to quantify energy savings, as well as the fact that based on the DOE calculator, the average incentive under the measured approach is expected to be significantly higher than under the modeled approach. So we don't think it's a zero-sum game. We think there's a room to do both, and we would encourage MEA when you're thinking through the homes program to, at the very least, include a pilot measured program as you implement these. appreciate you holding this meeting and appreciate all the work you do. And that ends my comments.
Thank you, David. Next up, we have Laurel Peltier. You have 2 minutes, and your time begins now.
Good afternoon. I wanted to first say thank you. I'm the chair of the Energy Advocates Coalition that focuses on low-income utility accounts, and I'm shocked. It's really it's a pleasure to see so much funds going into what's been an underserved segment, and I know everyone's working around the clock. And I also, as we move forward, wanted to suggest that the categorical eligibility and a lot of the stuff that was discussed in PC 59 might really play well in identifying all the various homes and the income levels and make it really easy to get these homes electrified and fixed up. So thank you. Just wanted to say great job.
Thank you, Laurel. Appreciate the words of encouragement. Sean Maloney.
How you doing? Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. My name is Sean Maloney, and I'm president of the Heating and Air Conditioning Contractors of Maryland, trade association for independent HVAC contractors in the Baltimore metro region. I'm also president of SM Mechanical, a family-owned full-service heating and cooling company. HACC and our member companies are looking forward to helping homeowners access these rebates, but MEA must ensure that the programs are only high-quality installations. To ensure a positive experience for contractors and households, we recommend that MEA take the following actions. First, given current Maryland utility rates, customers switching from natural gas are likely to face significantly higher heating bills unless they use high-efficiency inverter systems or retain gas as a dual fuel or cold weather backup. Energy Star natural gas furnaces can achieve significant energy savings while avoiding bill increase and provide an important option where heat pumps may not be sufficient. Retaining flexibility to install natural gas systems under homes and dual fuel systems under here, therefore, provides important cost savings and affordability benefits. Secondly, MEA should also require that contractors provide their master HVAC license numbers to be included on the qualified contractor list for all HVAC measures. Maryland has a nation-leading licensing program, and enforcing these requirements will ensure high quality without the need for additional certifications. Thirdly, various jurisdictions within Maryland also require permits for installation of HVAC systems, and installations without proper permits remains a challenge across the state. MEA should require the permit to be submitted as part of the final application in areas whereas a permit is required. Contractors found to be conducting installations without the proper license or permit should be removed from the program after initial warnings. Finally, unclear processes and lengthy paperwork delays are major reasons that homeowners and contractors avoid participation in rebate programs. Prior programs in the state have taken months to process paperwork, and MEA needs to ensure the process is simple and straightforward for customers and contractors. We look forward to participating in these programs. Thank you for the opportunity to share the contractor's perspective today.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Up next is Justin Berry. Your 2 minutes begins now.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Thank you for the information sessions and all the updates. Really excited to see it. My name is Justin Berry. I'm a senior analyst at Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, working to support our policy work and program design work. I also work with other advocates through the Maryland Energy Efficiency Advocates Coalition. We've submitted written comments in the past, and we'll take the opportunity to follow up in writing if there's other things to add. So all appreciated. Just as initial reaction to all the information presented, one of the things I wanted to raise is thinking about the need for enabling upgrades for home electrification. Heard a lot of great stuff about heat pumps, and very supportive of heat pumps as a way to save energy, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and save people money on their bills, but also know that there can be gaps in funding available right now for the type of electrical upgrades or other needed repairs to homes to make those available, especially to low-income communities, disadvantaged communities, and the like. So I would encourage, as thinking about how the funds will be used, especially while aligning with programs like DHCDs, that there's good attention thought to some of the eligible uses for fundings in addition to heat pumps that would allow those installations to happen, which can, in cases, be funded by existing programs. Other piece I'll add is encourage, as MEA continues to finalize their application and design the programs, do the blueprint for implementation, to engage with stakeholders and have opportunities for us to help support the design so we can be supportive at the program's launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Up next, we have Michael McLaughlin.
Hi, this is Mike McLaughlin. I live in Laurel in a single family home and have been eagerly watching the progress since the IRA was passed. We get lots of notifications by email from the Federal Department of Energy about the progress, but I have not received any email about the progress within Maryland. I had to go to the site to find out what was going on. In fact, I first learned about the money that was released to Maryland from the federal emails. I would suggest that Maryland notify, and I will send an email to this IRA rebates email to make sure that you have mine. But as soon as we are eligible to submit applications, I would suggest that the state notify residents and all those that are interested in some form of direct notification through email so that we can apply as soon as possible. And again, thanks for making this happen. And I look forward to making this switch to electric. Thanks.
Mr. McLaughlin, thanks for your comment and for your brevity. Up next, we have Alice Bell.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Alice Bell. I'm speaking on behalf of the Association of Air Conditioning Professionals, which is a trade association of independent HVAC contractors in the DC metro region. We support the comments delivered earlier by Sean Maloney and HACC regarding affordability and enforcement of license and permit requirements. To ensure a positive experience for both contractors and households, we also recommend that MEA take the following actions. First, MEA should not establish an envelope prerequisite for projects involving HVAC systems. Most are installed on an emergency basis, and households often cannot plan ahead to complete weatherization in advance. Lower income households may also not have sufficient savings to undertake multiple projects at once. Establishing the prerequisite could delay or exclude many projects, particularly for those households. Weatherization can be a best practice, but should retain customer flexibility to install HVAC measures without it when necessary and desirable for the homeowner. We also want to support that presence of a one-stop shop that will pre-qualify for multiple opportunities at once to streamline and ensure everyone is getting the funding that they need. And finally, to successfully deploy the rebates, Maryland will need to expand its HVAC workforce, who will be responsible for realizing much of the overall savings. MEA should leverage the Training for Residential Energy Contractors program, along with other state funds, to support registered apprenticeship programs for the HVAC and heat pump workforce, including tuition subsidies, salary support for instructors, and wage stipends for contractors hiring apprentices. MEA should also support upskilling and certification for existing contractors, such as those offered by AACP, ACA, and ASHRAE. To further support the contractor workforce, MEA should also expand the TREC advisory group to include rebate programs, providing a forum for contractors, workforce training programs, and other stakeholders to support the ongoing implementation of all of these programs. Contractors play a critical role in these programs, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Next up, we have Paula Carmody.
Yes, thank you. Paula Carmody, I'm a volunteer member of the Maryland Energy Advocates Coalition that Laurel Peltier talked about, as well as the former People's Council. Just have a quick comment with regard to low-income households in particular participating. I would encourage MEA to participate and pay attention to what's going on in the Public Service Commission's docket PC 59 with a focus on affordability. There are multiple goals for your programs. Affordability of bills is a specific aspect of PC 59. And I think one of the things that has come out is the importance of data sharing across programs and across agencies to deliver efficiency programs, other kinds of programs, electrification programs, et cetera, to low-income households in combination with energy assistance programs to target the sort of highest usage, lowest income households. We think that it is really important to be able to do that. So I would just kind of encourage MEA as you're going through this process, to work not only with DHCD, but encourage, discussions within that PC 59 forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carmody. Luke Lanciano.
Hi, thank you. I'm Luke Lanciano. I'm the Director of Sustainability with the Tower Companies. We operate a campus of multifamily buildings in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we've been doing sustainability work across our portfolio for many years. I'm very encouraged by some of the rebates that are coming out through the IRA, some of the various incentive measures. But one thing I did want to note is that the percentage of funding being allocated to multifamily does appear to be fairly low. In a single family home context, you just have a slightly simpler process for electrifying those structures, whereas in a multifamily context, it's oftentimes shared utilities, shared systems. It can be much more complicated, and I'm sure everyone's aware that folks that are able to own their own home typically have more resources than those who are renting across the state. It's where the bulk of low-income folks live across the state. So I would really encourage that MEA and the various other agencies involved look into more multifamily funding so that these measures can be equitable and effectively reach all the people who they need to reach. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Maloney, we already had one comment from you. Is it possible you could submit your additional comments via the email that was provided in the chat?
If I could just have a few more seconds. The only reason I'm saying is those were obviously my prepared comments representing HACC. From a personal standpoint, I'm a small business owner, which represents the majority of the people in this. I work all the time with all of the utility companies, legislators, and to me, we've got a lot more success in previous programs, whether they be LMI programs like the HALF program or increased contractor participation in all of the programs. Anything that has to do with with rebate programs or anything with the utilities. A couple of years ago, I did have a conversation to start with the MEA. We haven't kind of followed up on that, but I just want to make the stress on this that the success of any of these programs is based on contractor participation. So if possible, we would love to have as much coordination and input as possible, because no matter what happens with this, like I said, I represent that. We do electrical, we do performance. I kind of represent if it's very, very difficult to do these kind of programs, the majority of the contractors won't participate, and then obviously we won't have the success. So I just wanted to stress that to everyone.
All right, thank you. At this time, there are no more hands raised. Sorry, Mr. Craig, your 2 minutes begins now.
Sorry for the late notice. I'm raising my hand. My name is Derek Craig, and I'm a governmental relations manager for Chesapeake Utilities, representing a company that, per this meeting, we may be the big bad wolf. But just wanted to state Chesapeake provides natural gas to approximately 30,000 customers in the state of Maryland, mainly on the Eastern Shore. I want to stress that although Chesapeake provides an entity that this effort is trying to eliminate, we believe that we and natural gas can be part of the solution as opposed to being considered part of the problem. I want to remind everyone of a few key points as the state tries to go 100% electric. Maryland currently imports 40% of its electric power from outside the state, as there's not enough generation in the state to supply its current needs. Going to full electrification would result in an increase on demand, and that would be a major strain on the grid, as we are already in the hole. Second, I want to remind everyone of the dangers of not considering the benefits of energy diversification. Not only should we be ready to provide another type of energy in the case of a possible blackout like we saw just 21 years ago, but we also need to make sure that all of our eggs are not in one energy basket, thereby making it easier for external enemies to render us helpless. Finally, natural gas does have carbon in it, we admit, but it also is natural and will get into the atmosphere eventually anyway. It is recommended to use something that is prevalent to us and can be more efficient in heating than heat pumps are. We want to be part of the solution. We are currently providing energy efficiency programs to reduce the use of natural gas, which includes directing our efforts to help low-income customers. We ask that you guys work with us as opposed to working against us. We truly want to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Up next, we have Tom Horton. Tom, you just need to unmute yourself before you speak.
Okay, now?
Got you loud and clear, sir.
As an individual homeowner, a few things. Well, thanks for hosting this session. It was quite helpful. A few things that would be very helpful to me personally is how do I calculate my area median income? There seem to be multiple ways to do it with multiple results, and that could be critical for me. Is this program retroactive? If you thought you qualified and did something, I know you can't answer these questions now. It would be useful to know since my furnace doesn't work so good. The other thing, you use fuel oil and propane in your presentation, but you never mention the words natural gas, which confuses me as someone who is a natural gas user. So those are a few areas that, from my personal homeowner perspective, would be real helpful to find some clarification on. Thank you.
Mr. Horton, thanks. Very constructive comments. I appreciate your time. At this time, I'm not seeing any additional hands raised. Is there anyone who wanted to speak? Oh, here we are. Dorothy Estrada, your 2 minutes begins now.
Yes, hello, Dorothy Estrada. I'm the Sustainability Manager for the City of Tacoma Park. Just really wanted to thank you all for holding this information session. Our office has gotten many calls about this topic over the past year, and it's really great to see MEA and DHCD working in tandem to really get the ball rolling on this. I just wanted, I had a short comment, and it's been also very informative to hear from the other participants here. We are very excited to see how much will be allocated toward multifamily. We currently have an on-the-ground program that is exactly trying to achieve these objectives, and the rebates are going. We know that the rebates will make a huge difference in transitioning to electrification. My comment would just be smaller jurisdictions, city governments are where a lot of those relationships with those small and mid-sized multifamilies exist, and definitely would encourage in the program design funding aspect that's being requested that there be a lot of thought given to community outreach and one thing we're observing is just the trust building factor, especially among low and moderate income and vulnerable residents, is kind of a barrier at the moment. So if some of the funds can be deployed to really do some meaningful community outreach about the rebates and how to apply for them, so just really break down those barriers, that would be extremely helpful. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to speak by raising their hand? And is there anyone who was unable to locate the hand raising function who would wish to speak? You can go ahead and unmute yourself now and speak up. Seeing none, this concludes our listening session. I want to thank again all the participants on this end of the call, and also everyone who made a public comment for your input. Somebody that's logged in as Energy Star has raised their hand.
Hello, I just wanted to know if the recording will be shared after this.
I believe we will have at least the slides posted to the website.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Craig?
Just because I can make a mistake, could you one last time repeat the email address for written comments? The IRA
Certainly.
rebates?
irarebates.mea@maryland.gov.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. All right, seeing no more public comment, at this time, we'll conclude the meeting. Thank you all for your participation.